There is a plan, and Northcom released it, that links with the U.S. with Canada. Like, there's definitely...
Yeah, and the Mexican troops. Yeah, no, and again, those are mainly tabletop, but the point is they're bringing them in and preparing to use troops from 15 different nations in all 3 countries.
Yeah, I think, and the one with Canada, I think the acronym was CAP, like a Civil Assistance Plan or something. So, yeah, a Northcom Canadian plan going on there.
Well, the foreign troops are going to help us. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and we live in a border state here in Minnesota, and like Homeland Security wants to start, flying all these drones around from North Dakota and stuff. And we had a recent exercise in Princeton, Minnesota, of troops on the streets in much the same way as they were recently in St. Louis. So we got to, keep an eye on these trends and then start asking the questions like, okay, are you guys running through this U.S. Northcom Con Plan 3501, Defense Support of Civil Authorities? Are you practicing for Con Plan 3502, Civil Disturbance Operations? Getting a grip on that, getting a grip on these different frameworks. The Domestic Operational Law Handbook lays out in Chapter 5, Civil Disturbance Operations, Title 10, Title 32, dual status task forces. We saw during the Deepwater Horizon disaster and the way that was handled in a way that was incredibly friendly to BP and very corporatized in its setup. That was, I think, a pretty good example of how a Con Plan 3501 DSCA, Defense Support of Civil Authorities, a task force is organized, and it matched pretty closely in its structure with the documents that I found from the NLE 2011 New Madrid exercise. So, all of those things really fit together. And I just want to say though, as things have escalated, we've seen the militarization of these tactics in so many different localities. And I would say that if nothing else, I think that the Occupy movement sort of essentially kind of trolled the New World Order into like coming out in the open, sort of prompting a crackdown because they just couldn't tolerate the image of all these people rising up and
exactly. We saw Homeland Security in like dozens of cities, then 30+ cities, ordering the police to raid on certain nights, showing it's totally federalized. That should be the city, the county, the state, even if you are going to kick people off the street, which is bad enough.
Yeah, and we saw there were definitely documents released about the Federal Protective Service taking action in different places. And there was at least one pickup that happened to a friend of mine by Homeland Security here in Minneapolis, right here in South Minneapolis. So I think, getting these things out in the open, I guess, so that like the whole country could see, like, this is the trend that things are going on. This isn't just something that, happens to, for example, minority neighborhoods that get a lot of like state violence imposed on them. This isn't just something that happens at like Pittsburgh during the G20. This is going to happen in your city. They're going to break out the riot control instruments. They're going to take direction from the FBI to do everything at night when the media is not around and so forth. Here was one thing, a very interesting source, kind of at the peak of the Occupy stuff, first half of October, when I was out in New York, a source told me that he'd essentially been detained by an FBI office because they felt that he was starting to leak something out. And in his view, what he had been told by this insider was that the FBI had 4 days of meetings in headquarters in Washington, and that they were preparing for some kind of contingency aspect for mass detention domestically, and that this plan was being circulated only in writing, not really electronically, and it was called a 01. And so I thought that was fairly interesting. Obviously, it was very difficult to try to even confirm something like that, so we had to put it out there as being unconfirmed, but that there was a risk of this type of thing happening.
Incredible. Stay there. One more segment on that. Yeah, and I'm aware of 01, Operation Black Star, others. Well, that'll get the NSA computers going crazy. Operation Black Star. Anyways, a lot of this is admitted, though. I mean, they've got the re-education camp document. And, of course, they're planning to arrest people. They're criminals. They're taking over.
Hi, this is Alex Jones. Did you know that...
Ladies and gentlemen, every government wants to take over. It happens throughout history. Our country was founded to try to block this, but it's happening here. Criminal special interests want to secure and expand their criminal illegitimate gains. And there's a fight for the heart and soul of the military and police. Instead of just talking about, oh, we're going to have a civil war, let's buy some more guns and get ready for it. Why don't we reach out to police and military and journalists and the media and the city councils and go make an issue out of this now? Keep government and especially the uniformed services on a very short leash, or you will get oppression every time. This is a historical fact, and I just beg all of you in the military and police as well. Things are changing. There's tyranny. I was sitting there in a restaurant next to 4 cops the other day and was listening to them the entire time. And I was critical of some of the stuff they were doing. But other than that, I kept thinking they knew who I was, but they didn't. But they were talking about Obama and the executive order to take over communications. And, and they were like, how do they do that? The point is, people are realizing this is creepy. And our way of life is going to end if this goes through. They want to go to tyranny because they're going to get rid of the prosperity folks. They want that model. And I know I've been ranting. We've only got a couple minutes left. Dan, fight specifically on the flu front, though. You're raising the point about mass arrest. It's been admitted they plan to forcibly inoculate. It's been admitted, like when they go pick up all the journalists or protesters before an event now and arrest them for no reason and always call beer-making equipment bombs. People think, oh, they must be guilty. No, folks, we've had the police say we're going to blow up the military for politely pulling up and saying, hi, we'd like to talk to your public information officer. We called here. They said, come over. And then an American scum would dare even try to talk to a military press person. We are the lowest filth on earth. You have to understand that from the Homeland Security perspective. Dan?
In Chicago with the arrests of, kind of Occupy-related activists around the NATO summit there. There was also kind of a very similar setup with an informant, kind of a very false flag scenario in Cleveland, sort of a staged fake bombing thing going on. And then as we saw in Minneapolis, this DRE, drug recognition evaluator program, was trying to turn people into informants by exploiting drugs and chemical dependency and that kind of thing. So, at the FBI level, there's a very certain tactic of trying to plant people in place as, provocateurs, handlers, so forth. They try to kind of isolate, kind of spin off small groups of vulnerable people. That's pretty much how it happened in Cleveland. There's a really excellent film that was on PBS called Better This World, which covered the 2008 Republican National Convention.
Totally set up.
Molotov cocktail. Yeah, that's set up. And so that particular model is also the same kind of model that you're starting to see applied as the FBI.
They tried to set me up and had cops coming around and people trying to set us up for the governor's mansion firebombing. And then the same guy connected to that ended up there in Minnesota.
Yes, exactly. Those were definitely linked. And so it's the same kind of operational pattern. I got a batch of documents from earlier in the 2000s, FBI FOIA documents from Iowa and the extensive operations that they did there, because it looked like they were trying to set up similar groups. They had confidential informants going on. So you can look up those stories. I called them COINTELPRO Gothic.
I'll tell you what, stay there. Let's do 5 more minutes into overdrive on this. I want you to be able to finish that up. But yeah, folks, you don't understand how criminal the system is until your polite reporters pull up and go, hi, we're here to talk to people. And they're like, you're bombers. Get them, bombers. It's like they say we are, so we are, off to the camp. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. We're broadcasting worldwide right now. It is 7/11. Wednesday, the 11th day of July, 2012. Dan Fight is a journalist and joins us right now. He was just getting into something that probably we should have done the whole interview on, but we only got about 5 minutes left here, or 3 or 4 minutes left technically. And that's provocateuring. Again, I covered an urban warfare drill. Mike Hansen saw this, my camera guy, in Florida. And the military was really mad I was covering this. We found out because it was a round up the town drill. And we'd go around the town, Brooksville, Florida, and they'd have military. People coming out of their houses, this is on video, saying, you're Alex Jones, the military told me not to talk to you. This is like 13 years ago when hardly anybody knew who I was. And then I'm there trying to film the military landing and practicing taking over the town at the local municipal airport. And like I said, they had this military guy who'd been following us around in Austin jump out of the bushes, we later learned was assigned to him, and start setting fires going, you know, like the fires you're setting, Alex. And I was like putting them out, and he like setting more. And I had to like, you know, well, I'm not going to get into the whole story. The point is stop the guy. And I mean, listen, you're nothing. They'll put you in prison in 5 seconds. That's what I'm telling you. Shutting up Americans, we're the enemy. You have to understand, those running the country tell you it's all about patriotism, but it's the opposite. They're here to bring this country down. And only being honest about how bad this is will ever get us out of this. But I've experienced it. I've experienced all sorts of stuff that until you witness it, it's hard to believe. Dan Fight, finishing up your point on this front.
Sure. I just wanted to sort of add that there's a real corrupt sort of incentive structure inside the FBI. It's called statistical accomplishments. And so whenever they can create an incident using informants, you know, trying to generate charges and stuff, they can get statistical accomplishments for their careers. And so the documents that I got were posted under COINTELPRO Gothic and COINTELPRO Gothic 2. And they show how statistical accomplishments are an integral part that motivates this entire process of interfering in domestic movements, declaring that, well, we think you're a terrorist, we're putting you on the watch list because of your political statements and things of that nature. I just want to say, though, on positive side, there is a lot we can do in terms of research. I encourage everybody to do this. You know, I've just been someone who's been plugging at it for a while, and I have a lot of friends who help me find the information and get the word out. There's a couple good wikis that are sort of collecting information, aside from websites like publicintelligence.net, cryptome.org. There's also the Echelon 2 Project PM, which wiki, which sort of collects information that anonymous type people have found. There's also another wiki called Telecomics BSRE, which looks very specifically at the telecommunications vendors that sort of build these totalitarian turnkey states in different countries. So we can analyze those things very carefully. And then also, it's very important that, you know, we can all work together across like really ideologically broad coalitions to raise these issues, bring them to our state legislatures. We've had very good luck raising awareness of the consequences of if the legislature in Minnesota were to expand and create something called criminal intelligence data, which lets them create open-ended dossiers on people. And so that's the kind of thing that you can organize against across the political spectrum. People are very skeptical of it. Local governments and local politicians don't necessarily want to spend the money, but they also, I know for a fact, they've told me, we can't go against the war on drugs because we don't have the leverage. You know, it's hard to go up against the police. So you have to work on giving mainstream people some political cover if you want to try to at least block things from getting worse.
That's a key. Thank you so much, Dan Fight. Plug your website real quick.
Yeah, my main website is hongpong.com. I also work with Twin Cities Indie Media. I've been a member of the Global Revolution Video Collective with the Occupy Wall Street. So been involved in quite a few
Great job,
things.
Dan. We're going to talk to you soon. Thank you for all the time. Keep up the great work. Yeah, I mean, just ending here at this segment, I want to say this. The more of us that speak out, the more of us that get involved, the more of us that take action, the more of us that reach out, it gives other people cover. There's safety in numbers, so speak out, say no, point out the tyranny, defend freedom, do the right thing, don't follow unlawful orders. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.tv. Sick of the globalist eugenicist control